I've been shooting with my Lumix S5 Mark II for quite a few months now, and I couldn't exactly tell you off the top of my head how long it's actually been, but enough where I feel pretty confident in recommending this camera for most people. Now, it might not be the perfect camera, it might not be the best camera, it might not be the right camera for you, but I wanted to talk about why I think it's probably the most valuable camera that you could buy right now. Of course, things in the future will change, new technology will come out, and of course, eventually it will become outdated. But I think the S5 Mark II is something that even if you buy something later on, you'll still get use out of the S5 Mark II. I'm still using my GH5s, my GH6s, and those are the GH5s are quite old at this point in time. And so if you make strategic moves, if you put a little bit of money into something and you get the most return out of it, I think those are really worthwhile investments, especially when they hold up over the long term. So I want to talk about why I think the S5 Mark II is so valuable. And I want to hop over to CineD because they have this cool feature. I don't know if you know about this, but over on CineD, they have a camera database. And you can basically look through all of their cameras that they've tested and kind of get some really good dynamic range tests. They've got, even like the release date on here. And so it's just a really nice place to start when you're comparing cameras and you want to look scientifically at them. Now, I'm sure someone out there is going to criticize their method of testing, and there's other places that do similar testing. So pick your favorite. I don't really care, but I like their interface here because you can look at something like the S5 Mark II and you could compare it to something else. Like if you wanted to say, what would the equivalent be from Sony? Let's say you want to compare it to let's say the A7S III, for example. And so here at a glance, you can see the Lumix S5 Mark II versus the Sony Alpha A7S III. I think the A stands for Alpha, so I don't know why that needs to be written twice. But regardless, of course, the S5 Mark II is newer, came out in January 2023. We have that there. And then the A7S III, a little bit older, July 2020 is when that camera came out. And of course, these are not the same price point. You know, the A7S Mark III, much more expensive. But you can see down here, they have their dynamic range tests, and you can see that these cameras are more or less nearly identical when it comes to dynamic range, according to CineD. And I feel like dynamic range is not the only thing that matters. Of course, the A7S III can shoot 4K 120 uncropped. The S5 Mark II cannot do that. But, you know, if you just want to at a glance compare cameras, this is a cool way to do it. You could also look at something like the Arri Alexa. Let's go the Alexa 35. This is because I did some research ahead of time. This is the highest rated dynamic range camera that CineD has tested. So it's their number one. And if you look at their dynamic range, which a lot of people get excited about, again, it's not the only thing that's important, but it's very, very exciting. The Arri Alexa 35 has their best, dynamic range is 16.3 stops of dynamic range compared to the S5 Mark II, 13.7. So less than a 3-stop difference between the two of them. And the Arri Alexa 35, I think, is an $80,000 camera. The Lumix S5 Mark II is a $1,500 camera. Yeah, you get the picture. If you need the Alexa 35, get the Alexa 35. But it's also $80,000. You can get a ton of value out of an S5 Mark II. Granted, it's got some problems with rolling shutter. It's not the fastest sensor readout. It does crop when you shoot 4K 60. But in general, the S5 Mark II is incredibly valuable. You've got almost 14 stops dynamic range, according to CineD. You've got all the great Lumix features that they give you in a hybrid, like open gate shooting. You've got shutter angle. You've got V-Log. You can shoot 4K 60. You've got the L mount, which doesn't have the best selection of lenses right now. I will admit that E mount has way more options. RF also has some nice options when it comes to lenses. But the L mount is there. What's there is certainly workable, and it doesn't have a bunch of options, but they are there. And if you're looking at that just from a value play standpoint, like what's the device going to do for you? Because if you need to put on a show, if you need an Alexa 35, then go get it. If you need let's say a Sony FX6, right? That's quite popular. Sony FX6, where are you at on the list? Let's compare them. And again, I'm just going to do the basic dynamic range test. But like the FX6 has less dynamic range, according to CineD, than the S5 Mark II. And yeah, the FX6 has different knobs, it has different inputs, different outputs, different form factor. So it's not apples to apples, as you're kind of comparing apples to oranges. But this is a great way to make those comparisons and see. And the FX6 is older. Let's look at something like, what else could we look at? The Sony. Because Sony's very, very popular. Do they have the FX9 on here? They do, but their labels are all kind of off. Makes it harder to use. But I do like this tool just to, at a glance, kind of check and see what they've got here. The FX9, yeah, less dynamic range than the S5 Mark II. And again, I know that's not the most important thing, but it's at least a starting point because it's where people like to talk about, these cameras, and resolution isn't all that matters. It's about color. It's about dynamic range. That's the most important, blah, 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 blah. What's important to you is important to you. And what's important to me might be very different. We don't share identical needs and desires. What you're filming or what you're shooting could be, and it probably is quite different than what I am. And so it's definitely the right tool for the job, the right tool for the filmmaker. But the S5 Mark II, ever since I started using it, it's just been such a no-brainer, just how great it is. You've got all those amazing things that everyone for the longest time said, Lumix, it's too small. The sensor's too small. It's micro four thirds. Well, Lumix fixed all that. They got a full frame sensor now. They put phase detect in the thing. The S5 Mark II has phase detect autofocus. Is it as good as Sony? It's not as good, but it's still really good. It's still like basically perfect, indistinguishable, from what you would expect. I don't know. I don't know how you could want it to be like that much better. The Sony is a little bit stickier, a little bit more accurate, but the grand scheme of things at the end of the day, it's more or less the same. It's kind of a wash. And so all the things that used to matter and how people were competing, the features, the this versus full frame versus micro four thirds, autofocus versus no autofocus, or like not usable in video, all that stuff is kind of like washed away. Everyone's got 10-bit now. Everyone's got 422. Everyone's doing 4K because back in the day, that was the thing. 1080 versus 4K. It's all kind of the same now. There's little quirks here or there, cropped or uncropped in 60, or 120 or over only 60 over here. Maybe that matters to you, but those super niche specific things I think apply less and less globally. It used to matter the sensor size. It used to matter the autofocus. Now, because everything's kind of a wash, it's kind of like what matters most? The price. What's the value you're getting out of the thing? And if you need two cameras, that's way more valuable usually than just one. So that's where price starts to add up and really mean a lot, because you used to spend a lot and you got a lot. And if you spent a little, you got junk, or you got something that you kind of made work. You had to jump through some extra hoops, dealing with speed boosters, or you just kind of like made it work. Nowadays, it's more about just like the price and how you're using it and what you're getting out of it. And so when I look at something like the S5 Mark II, it's criminally underrated. I think the more accurate comparison, like let's say, for example, from Sony, would be the A7 IV. Price point wise, I think they're very close. The S5 Mark II is a little bit cheaper, but the A7 IV is kind of right there. And let's see, dynamic range. Yeah, the A7 IV has it beat by a little bit, 13.7 versus 14. So I don't know, you tell me if you need a Sony body to fit in a Sony ecosystem, but I'll tell you that A7 IV, having used one frequently, that thing will overheat indoors if you don't flip the LCD panel out. That's super irritating, let alone trying to film outside with it and it overheats. Then it's a brick and it's unusable. I've filmed with the S5 Mark II outside, and that thing, the thermal management is perfectly adequate for me, and I shoot in Arizona outside. I've shot with it in, I think, over 110 degree temperature, definitely over 100 Fahrenheit. And the S5 Mark II holds up. It has good thermal management, it has fans in there. The A7 IV, on the other hand, not the case. The thing will overheat on you. So those are the considerations you have to factor in. Now, is it the perfect camera for you? Is it the best camera? No, maybe not. Not the best camera. But we also don't have infinite budgets. We can't just afford, like, oh, we're going to buy one camera and then you need to do a multi-camera shoot. Well, what are you going to do? I think to rent an Alexa 35, to rent one for a week, you could have bought two S5 Mark IIs. Now, if you're renting an Alexa 35, you probably need to rent an Alexa 35, but just for price to value, to performance, to all the things, it is so amazing to me that we are able to get so much out of something like the S5 Mark II, considering all those high-end cinema features like open gate and shutter angle and all that. Yes, work with the limitations, the sensor speed, the rolling shutter, the crop in 4K 60. You might have some aliasing and moire in certain situations with a really tight pattern. If you're not, if you don't have a good lens filtration, you don't have solutions to fix that. But like, it's a ton of value. And that's why I would say right now, it is the most valuable camera, all things considered, because it doesn't cost you a whole lot to get it. And what you can get out of it is so much greater than probably what you'd have to pay double probably for anything else. Because even the equivalents from Sony, and I think the Canon equivalent would be like the R6 Mark II, maybe? Let's see if they have it in here. R6 Mark II. I think price-wise, that's about the equivalent. Let's see, does it list the price here as well? Yeah, $2,000 versus $1,700. So very much like I'm trying to keep it apples to apples. And you can look, the dynamic range in the S5 Mark II, I didn't even know this, but according to CineD, the R6 Mark II, the dynamic range is worse than on the S5 Mark II. Maybe it has faster sensor speed, I don't know. You can go look in all the here's the rolling shutter right here. 22nd best, 36, but yes, so the rolling shutter is faster, like it's better. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, the sensor is faster, not the rolling shutter is fast. The sensor speed is faster at 10.3 milliseconds versus 14.3. So you can go do your own comparison, figure out what you want to buy. But if you're looking at spending, $2,000, less than $2,000, if you're picking up these cameras used, factoring in what's going to play nice in your market, in your industry where you're at. If other people are all shooting Sony, maybe you do want to go Sony. If it doesn't matter as much, maybe you want to opt for Lumix because I just think it has the best features. Maybe you need Canon for a particular reason because you need some specific RF lens. But doing these comparisons I think is very helpful, especially nowadays when it is so much about that price to value. Like, what are you able to get? Don't spend all of your money on one thing that's going to be outdated in a year or two. That's foolish. Spend your money strategically on the camera, but also the audio, also the lighting, also the location, also the talent, also set design, wardrobe, hair and makeup. There's so many things that go into making content, whether that's a film, a short film, music video, an explainer video, a corporate video, documentary, it doesn't matter. But there's a lot of ways you can spend money. And when I'm looking at it and I'm slicing it all up, I'm like, well, shoot, I can get a lot of value out of that S5 Mark II. I don't have to spend a whole lot. All of a sudden, that frees up my budget for all those other things. Maybe another camera body, like a B camera or a C camera or a D camera. Maybe you need 4 cameras. And then you need lenses to complement, you need the accessories. So like things get expensive real quick. It all starts to add up. And so when I'm looking at what's the right camera for me, it's pretty much number one, how does it feel to use it? Is it this giant hulking monstrosity that's super heavy that I can only operate for 30 minutes at a time before I need to take a break, or I need, like a harness and a rig just to help support the thing? Or is it something I can hold in my hand? Can it shoot photo and video? Can it do both well to a decent degree? Is it fast to operate? And then how many of them can I get? And how much budget do I have left over for everything else that needs to be done in addition to just the base of just what camera am I shooting with? So those are the things that I'm always thinking of and why I gravitate towards things that punch above their weight class, that give you that best bang for your buck. And I am beyond impressed with the S5 Mark II. I think it's an incredible camera. I am not disappointed in the slightest. Compare that to other cameras I've bought, other Lumix cameras. The G9 Mark II was underwhelming and a disappointment to me. I think a camera like that shouldn't overheat as easily as it does. That's a unique thing to me. And I know plenty of people have made a fuss about like, well, it's a photo camera. But the S5 Mark II is also a photo camera, but it can also do all the video things I need it to do. And that's why for me, it's like that perfect hybrid where I get so much value out of it. It's not spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a camera body, because then what I have left over for another camera body. So when I'm looking at stuff, that's kind of how I break it down. And I think definitely if you're considering any camera, check through this CineD database because it's such a useful tool. And it's really impressive, all the testing that they've done. I can't speak to the validity of their testing methods. Maybe they could be a little bit more scientifically accurate. I have no idea. But the fact that they're even spending the time to do it is impressive. And I do find a lot of value in it, especially for how easy it is to use this type of tool. So probably do a little bit of your own research. Make sure you're making the right choice for yourself. But then also know, like when you're doing these comparisons and you're just feeling like something's better than something else, I don't know, go check it out and see. And it may be true, maybe it's not. Maybe you need maybe additional testing might be needed. But for me, the S5 Mark II, it checks so many of those boxes that I think we all need. And it doesn't ask a lot in terms of price. And that's why I think it's just such a no-brainer when it comes to value.